The Galactic Council was supposed to be humanity's greatest achievement, a coalition of species united under one banner, working together for peace, prosperity, and the advancement of all intelligent life. It was humanity's ticket to the stars, our seat at the table of galactic power. But as with all things that shine too brightly, there were shadows beneath the surface. And those shadows, they were darker than anyone could have imagined. Captain Elias Vren had spent the last 15 years serving as Earth's representative aboard the Council's flagship station, Nexus Prime. A sprawling city-sized structure floating in the void between star systems, Nexus Prime was the beating heart of interstellar diplomacy. It was where treaties were signed, disputes were settled, and secrets were buried. Elias had always been proud of his role. He believed in the ideals of the Council, in the promise of unity among the stars. But lately, something had felt off. Whispers in the corridors, sudden disappearances of staff members, and strange transmissions intercepted by Earth's intelligence agency had painted a troubling picture. Elias couldn't shake the feeling that the Council wasn't what it seemed. It started small, an overheard conversation between two alien diplomats about Project Obsidian. The name meant nothing to Elias, but the urgency in their voices sent a chill down his spine. Then came the encrypted message left anonymously on his terminal. They're watching. They're listening. Don't trust anyone. Elias tried to brush it off, telling himself he was being paranoid. But when Lieutenant Kira Mallory, his second-in-command, vanished without a trace after investigating a restricted sector of the station, Elias knew he couldn't ignore the signs any longer. Kira was no rookie. She was sharp, resourceful, and fiercely loyal. For her to simply disappear was unthinkable. Determined to uncover the truth, Elias began digging into the Council's archives, using every bit of clearance his position afforded him. What he found was unsettling. Records of entire civilizations wiped from existence, their names erased from history. Classified reports detailing experiments conducted on unwilling subjects, both human and alien. And then there was the file labeled Earth Contingency Protocol. Elias hesitated before opening it, his heart pounding in his chest. The document outlined a plan to neutralize humanity if we ever became a threat to galactic stability. It described methods of sterilization, mass psychological manipulation, and even the deployment of bioweapons tailored specifically to human DNA. Elias felt sick. The Council, the organization he'd dedicated his life to, wasn't a beacon of hope. It was a machine of control, willing to destroy anything or anyone that didn't fit its vision of order. Elias knew he couldn't confront the Council directly. Doing so would be suicide. Instead, he reached out to Earth's intelligence agency, sending them everything he'd uncovered. But as he prepared to leave his quarters, the lights flickered, and a low hum filled the air. The station's security drones burst through the door, their weapons trained on him. Captain Elias Vren, a cold synthetic voice announced. You are under arrest for unauthorized access to classified materials. Elias didn't resist. He knew fighting back would only make things worse. As the drones escorted him to the detention wing, he couldn't help but wonder how many others had discovered the Council's secrets and how many had been silenced. Locked in a sterile cell, Elias waited. Hours turned into days, and the isolation began to wear on him. But then, late one night, the cell door slid open and a figure stepped inside. It was Kira Mallory. I don't have much time, she whispered, her eyes darting nervously. They're on to me, but I managed to disable the surveillance in this sector for a few minutes. Listen carefully. Kira explained that she'd stumbled upon a hidden chamber deep within the station, a laboratory where the Council was conducting experiments on captured humans. The goal, she said, was to create a hybrid species that could serve as perfect soldiers, combining human ingenuity with alien physiology. The experiments were brutal, and most subjects didn't survive. They're planning to use these hybrids to enforce their rule across the galaxy, Kira said, and if Earth resists, they'll unleash them on our homeworld. Elias felt a surge of anger and determination. We have to stop them, he said. But how? Kira handed him a data chip. This contains evidence of everything I found. If we can get it to Earth's fleet, they might stand a chance, but first, we need to get off this station. Their escape was anything but smooth. The station's security forces were relentless, and the labyrinthine corridors seemed designed to confuse intruders. But Elias and Kira were resourceful, using their knowledge of the station's layout to evade capture. Along the way, they encountered other prisoners, humans and aliens alike, who had been subjected to the Council's experiments. Some joined their cause, desperate for freedom and revenge. As they fought their way to the hangar bay, Elias couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. The station itself seemed alive, its walls pulsing with an eerie energy. And then, just as they reached the final corridor leading to the hangar, the lights went out. A voice echoed through the darkness, deep and resonant. "You cannot escape. You cannot defy the Council." Elias felt a cold hand grip his shoulder, and he turned to see a figure standing behind him, a humanoid creature with glowing eyes and metallic skin. It was one of the hybrids, and it moved with unnatural speed and precision. The battle that followed was chaotic and brutal. Elias and his team fought valiantly, but the hybrids were almost unstoppable. Just when it seemed like all hope was lost, Kira activated a device she'd taken from the laboratory, a pulse emitter designed to disrupt the hybrid's neural networks. The creatures collapsed, writhing in agony, giving the team a chance to board a stolen shuttle and escape. As they sped away from Nexus Prime, Elias looked back at the station, its massive form silhouetted against the stars. He knew the fight was far from over. The Council would come after them, and Earth would have to prepare for war. But for now, they had a chance to expose the truth and rally the galaxy against the Council's tyranny. Elias turned to Kira, a determined look in his eyes. "This isn't the end," he said. "It's just the beginning." The stolen shuttle hummed with tension as it cut through the void of space. Elias sat in the cockpit, his hands gripping the controls tightly, his mind racing. Behind him, Kira worked furiously at a console, trying to encrypt their flight path to avoid detection. The other survivors, humans and aliens alike, sat silently in the cramped cabin, their faces etched with exhaustion and fear. Elias glanced at Kira. "How long until they track us?" Kira didn't look up. "If we're lucky, a few hours. If we're not, they could already be on our tail." Elias cursed under his breath. They had escaped Nexus Prime, but they were far from safe. The Council's reach extended across the galaxy, and their ships were faster, better armed, and more advanced than anything humanity had ever built. Even with the data chip containing evidence of the Council's atrocities, getting back to Earth was going to be a monumental challenge. Captain, one of the alien survivors, a tall insectoid being with iridescent carapace, spoke up. Its voice clicked and buzzed, but the ship's translator rendered it into clear English. "You saved us. But what now? Where can we go that the Council will not find us?" Elias turned to face the group. "We can't hide. Not forever. Our only chance is to get this information to Earth. If we can expose the Council's crimes, we might be able to rally other species to our side. But first, we need to stay alive long enough to make it there." A human man sitting near the back, a former engineer from one of the Council's labor colonies, spoke up. "And how do you plan to do that? Their ships will tear us apart the moment they catch us." Kira finally looked up from her console. "Not if we take a detour. There's a system nearby, Zeta 9. It's off the main trade routes, and the Council avoids it like the plague." Elias frowned. "Why?" Kira hesitated. "Because it's dangerous. Unstable star, asteroid fields, rumors of strange phenomena. But it's our best shot at losing them." Elias nodded. "Set a course for Zeta 9. We'll figure out the rest once we're there." As the shuttle altered its trajectory, the mood aboard grew even heavier. The survivors whispered among themselves, sharing stories of what they had endured at the hands of the Council. Some spoke of loved ones lost, others of experiments so horrific they could barely describe them. Elias listened in silence, his resolve hardening with every word. He had always believed in humanity's potential, in our ability to rise above our flaws and build something greater. But now he realized that belief alone wasn't enough. Action was needed. Sacrifice was needed. Hours later, the shuttle entered the Zeta 9 system. The sight that greeted them was both awe-inspiring and terrifying. The system's star was a dying red giant, its surface roiling with massive solar flares. Asteroids drifted in chaotic orbits, illuminated by the crimson glow, and beyond the asteroids, a massive derelict structure floated in the void. A station or ship of unknown origin, its design unlike anything Elias had ever seen. "What is that?" he asked, staring at the view screen. Kira shook her head. "No idea. It's not in any of the Council's records. Could be ancient. Could be alien. Either way, it's big enough to hide in while we make repairs." Elias hesitated. Every instinct told him to keep moving, to put as much distance between them and the Council as possible. But the shuttle was running low on fuel, and their life support systems were strained from carrying so many passengers. They needed time to regroup. "Take us in," he said finally. As the shuttle approached the derelict structure, its true scale became apparent. It was massive, easily the size of Nexus Prime, but its surface was scarred and pitted, as if it had been through countless battles. Strange symbols were etched into the metal, glowing faintly in the dim light. The docking bay doors were open, inviting yet ominous. The moment they landed inside, an eerie silence enveloped them. The air was breathable but stale, and the lighting was dim and flickering. Elias ordered everyone to stay together as they ventured deeper into the structure, searching for supplies and a place to rest. The corridors were vast and labyrinthine, lined with strange machinery that seemed both ancient and advanced. It wasn't long before they realized they weren't alone. At first, it was subtle, faint whispers echoing through the halls, shadows that moved when no one was looking. Then came the sounds: metallic scraping, distant thuds, and a low guttural growl that sent shivers down their spines. One of the survivors, a young woman who had been silent since they left Nexus Prime, suddenly screamed and pointed down a corridor. Everyone turned, but whatever she had seen was gone. "This place isn't abandoned," Kira said, her voice trembling. "We need to leave. Now." But leaving wasn't an option. As they tried to retrace their steps to the shuttle, they found the corridors shifting around them, as if the structure itself was alive. Doors that had been open were now sealed shut, and new pathways appeared where none had been before. Panic set in as the survivors realized they were trapped. Elias forced himself to stay calm. "Everyone stick together. Whatever's here, it's trying to scare us. Don't let it." But the entity, or entities, within the structure weren't just trying to scare them. They were hunting them. One by one, members of the group began to disappear. Sometimes it was quick, a sudden scream, a flash of movement, and they were gone. Other times, it was slower, more insidious. A survivor would begin acting strangely, muttering to themselves or staring blankly into the distance, until they eventually wandered off into the darkness, never to return. Elias and Kira fought to keep the group together, but the psychological toll was immense. The survivors were exhausted, terrified, and on the verge of breaking. And then, amidst the chaos, they discovered something that changed everything. Deep within the structure, in a chamber filled with pulsating organic growths and glowing crystals, they found a device, a sphere of black metal covered in intricate patterns. It emitted a low hum, and as they approached, it began to pulse with light. Kira examined it closely. This isn't just a machine, it's alive, or something close to it. Elias felt a strange pull toward the sphere, as if it were calling to him. "What is it?" "I don't know," Kira admitted, "but I think it's connected to the Council. Maybe even the source of their power." Before they could investigate further, the entity revealed itself. A massive, amorphous creature emerged from the shadows, its form constantly shifting and writhing. It spoke without words, its voice echoing directly in their minds. "You should not have come here," it said. "This place is forbidden." Elias stepped forward, his fear giving way to defiance. "We didn't have a choice. The Council serves us," the entity interrupted. "They are our instruments, our enforcers. You are nothing but insects scurrying in the dirt." Elias clenched his fists. "Then why are you afraid of us? Why go to such lengths to control us?" The entity paused, its form rippling. Because your kind is dangerous, chaotic, unpredictable. You are a threat to the order we have built. Elias took a step closer to the sphere. Maybe that's because we value freedom. Because we won't bow to tyrants, no matter how powerful they think they are. The entity roared, its form expanding to fill the chamber. But before it could strike, Kira activated the sphere. A blinding light filled the room, and the entity shrieked in pain, retreating into the shadows. As the light faded, the corridors began to stabilize, and the survivors found their way back to the shuttle. But Elias knew their journey was far from over. The sphere was a weapon, a key to fighting back against the Council and the forces behind it. But using it would come at a cost. As the shuttle left the derelict structure and re-entered the void, Elias made a silent vow. He would protect humanity no matter the cost, and if the Council wanted a war, they would get one.